Hello and welcome to the video explanation of how to play Betrayal the House of the Hill. So the game takes place in a haunted mansion where a whole bunch of explorers decide to do the same thing that every white family does in horror movies, is explore a haunted old house and try to find stuff, or things find them. Um, the game starts with the explorer searching the mansion in order to find different items and trigger different events until one of the explorers activates an event called the hunt, where it turns out that one of us is actually the traitor. Then the traitor tries to kill the rest of the explorers, while the explorers, who are now turned into the heroes, try to survive. Each explorer starts with a character card, which is Sin. I have Professor Longfellow. Here's his miniature. That consists of different stats and physical attributes. The starting things of each physical attribute is shown right here. It's either knowledge, sanity, might, or speed. And the green is the starting area. What you can also see is that around the character portrait there's a lot of statistics about the characters themselves. Those take place when deciding who the traitor is going to be when the hunt is revealed. So in order to set up the game, first you need to choose your explorer and put the different clips in the necessary character tags, as well as the statistics. Choose your miniature, place the starting area as well as the upper landing and the basement landing, and shuffle the rest of the tiles in a nice packed stack, and then shuffle the event, the items, and the omen cards, and put 3 stacks of them in easily reachable area. After that, you also have the dice, which are custom made just for the game, and you should also have them in easily approachable position. Now, as I said, different characters have different statistics: speed, might, sanity, and knowledge. There's many events, items, and omens, which are the deck piles, as well as rooms that affect the performance of a character and can change it. For example, Professor Longfellow's starting speed is 4. If I found an item that increased my speed by 2, I will move the clip 2 places up, which increases it to 5. Now, if, say, I got attacked by an enemy that reduces my speed, again, I shall decrease the thing depending on what you need. You can increase your stats by 4 times, and after that they don't increase more than that, and if you reach that point they would just stay there. And also, if you see at the end of each and every single stat there's a skull. If at any point your attributes reach that level, your character dies. But your character cannot die until the traitor is revealed. Instead of that, it will be reduced to the lowest number. So my speed would go to 2. The way that the different attributes get reduced is by taking damage. Now there's 2 types of damage. There's mental damage and physical damage. Once you take physical damage, you can actually share it between might and speed. And while you take mental damage, you can share it between sanity and knowledge. So for example, if I took 3 mental damage, I can reduce my knowledge by 2, while reducing my sanity by 1, or I can attribute in any ways I want, as long as I reduce them by 3 in total. Now the things that you can do in your turn. So I have my little explorer there. You can move your character. For example, I can move him here. You can move him up to your speed. You can discover a new room. If I want to go here, I would discover a new room. You can use an item and the omen cards, which I will explain later. You can attempt a die roll, which I will also explain later. And lastly, you can make an attack. once in your turn after the hunt starts. Also, at the end of your turn, you must make a hunt roll and see if you draw an omen, which before the hunt starts. And this is something that I will also explain later. As I said, during your turn, you can move up to your speed. The speed of my professor is currently, it should start at 4. I just reduced it before as I was sewing, and thus I can move 1, 2, 3, and I don't have anywhere else to go from there, so I'll stop there for a moment. Keep in mind that you can interrupt your movement and use an item or use an omen midway, but if the game at any point forces you to draw a card, for example, when I first entered the dining room, I'll have to draw an omen card, then I instantly stop my movement, and after I draw the omen and do all the necessary actions surrounding that, I stop. So the game has 3 floors. There's the upper landing, which leads if you take up the stairs, the ground floor where we're currently in, and the basement landing, which you get there after you find the room that breaks. So the way the game works when you're exploring new rooms, let's say I move with my movement of 4, 1, 2, and I want to go there. There's no tile there, so I see the pile. If the card has the ground thing, that means it can be used in this. So I turned around, I see what it is, I put it in a way that it's possible for, if it's possible, all of the doors to be connected, and then I move here. If I were to explore further, let's say go up, I will check the pile, but look, this tile does not have either the ground at all, so I put on a side stack. This doesn't have either, so I put on the side stack, and then I draw this, and it's the junk room. So I'll just put it here. I decided to go here instead of up, and stay here. Now this actually leads us to a really interesting part. There's some special rooms. The junk room is one of them. Each and every single one of them has a short explanation on them, so I will not go into detail for each and every single one of them, otherwise it will be too much to cover in a small video like this. Now the only way to move between floors is through the staircases. The grand staircase always leads to the upper landing, while the only way to get from the basement is if you find the room called the basement, the stairs from the basement that lead to a secret door in the floor, which is right here. Keep in mind that if you do not find that card until then, you cannot access the basement from the basement this place, and the secret door will only be unlocked once you find that tile. Now let's take a step backwards and let's explain the small symbols that you can see on the room. There's the crow, there's a skull of a bull, and there's a weird swirly thingy like right there. And those show what kind of cards you draw once you first enter the room. So let's say I hadn't discovered the dining hall yet. So I want to go 1, 2, and then discover the dining hall, go here. As soon as I first enter the room, dining hall, with this, I will be forced to draw an omen card symbolized by the same symbol. So let's explain an event first. An event is a card that's symbolized by the spiral, and you draw an event card, you read it out loud, follow its instructions, which might require you to do a die roll, and then discard the card unless it says otherwise or has ongoing effects. An item, symbolized by the bull's head, is draw an item card, read out loud, place it face up in front of you. Now you have this item in your possession. You're carrying it or wearing it. You can use the item once immediately and once each of your turns, unless the card says otherwise. Lastly, there's the raven, the omen, symbolized by the raven, You draw an omen card, read it out loud, place it face up in front of you, Now you have that omen in your possession. You might have to do something immediately. At the end of your turn, if the hunt has not yet begun, you must make a hunt roll, which, as I've said before, I will explain later. Only when the room is first discovered do you get to draw a card from the symbol there. So if this character were to also go to the dining room, he would not have to draw an omen card because I've already explored it. The only way that this is not wrong if there's other rules that reveal rooms, and that way the first character to ever go to that room gets to draw the card. Items and most omen cards, which are treated like items, have some very interesting rules. If you're in the same room as one of adventurers, let's pick a random item. I get the smelling salts. Interesting. I can trade it to the other person, and he can trade it back. If I am in another room, I can drop the item in the room. Be sure to place a symbol there to remember that there's an item there. You can drop it. You can also pick up any number of items as well as drop one as well. Some items can't be traded or stolen because there's a stolen mechanic, but they can be dropped and picked up. The item's card text will state whether you can take a certain action with that item. The bite, the dog, the girl, and the madman aren't items, they're omens. The item card text will state whether you can take a certain amount of actions with that item. For each item, an explorer or monster can carry items, because there's some monsters that can perform only one of the following actions this item during their turn: use, trade, drop, steal, special attacks, which I will explain later, or pick up the item. To explain it further, let's say that I have the sacrificial dagger. I can't attack with this item and then drop it for someone else to pick it or trade it. I can use it, I can drop it, or I can trade it. Only one of them. Something more that's interesting about an item is if it increases, for example, let's go again with the classic of speed. I have max speed and I have an item that gives me +2 speed. If I lose the item, I will not lose any more stats since it goes over. I just don't gain anything. There's a special items and cards. The special items are it's similar to the one I showed you, the sacrificial dagger, which is considered a weapon, and those help you while making an attack. And as I mentioned before, there's some omens called companions, which is the dog, the girl, and the magnet. Those companions follow your explorer, who has custody of them, and companion items don't have physical and mental traits. So now we'll explain what a die roll is. Many times during the game you will need to roll one or more die. Each die has the faces of 0, 1, or 2 dots. Here's a die. As I showed you, there's no limit to how many times in a turn you can roll die. For example, you might need to make a die roll for a card you drew by moving into a room tile that also requires a die roll. You can, however, attempt the same die roll. You cannot attempt the same die roll more than once per turn. For example, you can't keep rolling the same turn to try to open the vault, which is a special card. If a card, tile, or other game effects instruct you to roll a specific number of die, do so and add the number of dots its die to get the result. When you do that, what the effect says for the result. So damage rolls. If an effect says take 1 die of physical damage, roll a die. You take the damage, the number of dots into might or speed. For effect that costs more than 1 die of damage, simply add the dots of more than 1 die you roll. So for example, if I have to take physical damage of 2 die rolls, I roll 2 dice and I rolled a 1, so I shall reduce 1 of my speed. I can also reduce one of my might if I want, since those are my physical traits, as I explained before. This is the exact same thing for mental damage, only instead of distributing the damage between your speed and might, you distribute it between sanity and knowledge. Sometimes cards or rooms will require you to do trait rolls. Traits are your physical attributes. So if I, example, have to do a knowledge check, I see I have a knowledge of 5. So as I roll 5 die, and I add all the dots to see the result. For example, I got 4. That's the result, and I see if it's above the number that's required. So going back to making an attack that I've been avoiding for so long. Making an attack is, first of all, as I said before, you cannot attack anyone until the hunt starts. Once during your turn, you can attack an opponent in the same room as you, either if he's an explorer or a monster, depending on who you are allied with. You can make an attack roll a number of die equal to your might, and your opponent does the same. Whoever rolls the higher result defeat his or her opponent and deals physical damage against the other explorer or monster. The amount of damage equals the difference between the two rolls. For example, if you roll 6 and your opponent rolls a 5, then you inflict 1 point of physical damage. If there's a tie, no one gets hurt. Sometimes an effect lets you make an attack roll with traits other than might. For example, you can do a knowledge or a speed attack, depending on some things like weapons that affect you. And you also do the similar thing. When the effect lets you attack with sanity or knowledge, then you inflict mental damage. You can use a trait to attack an opponent who doesn't have the trait. For instance, if a monster doesn't have sanity, you can make a sanity attack against it. Sometimes when you defeat your opponent, you do something other than inflicting damage. For instance, you might be able to steal an item, which I will explain in special attacks in a few seconds. Monsters are only stunned when you defeat them, not killed, unless the hunt specifies so. You can attack a stunned monster if there is another benefit from doing so, for example, stealing an item or killing it with a special item. Stunned monsters still roll dice to defend, but if the attacking hero loses, he or she takes no damage. You can both make a hunt-specific action, as described in the hunt rules, which it's a later part, and attack on your turn. Now going to special attacks, there's distance attacks that allow things like the revolver, which has infinite range as long as you have an unending line of sight. For example, let's say that I become the traitor and this guy has to kill me. If I'm in this room and you can see there's a straight line leading straight into me, he can make a distance attack with me. Some monsters can also do a distance attack. Keep in mind that I have to be in line of sight. So if I'm here, I'm not in line of sight since there's not a straight line leading straight to me. So he can't do. Now talking about stealing items. If you attack someone and inflict 2 or more points of physical damage, you can steal a tradable item or omen instead of inflicting the damage. You can steal items or omen by making a distance attack. That's important. Some hunts have specific rules for stealing items. Now to talk about the hunt. Once the hunt begins, the game changes drastically. Now it's a desperate struggle to win before your opponent does. Now, how does the hunt actually begin? You make a hunt roll. Before the hunt starts, you must roll a 6 die at the end of your turn. Each time you draw, so every turn, at the end of your turn, before the hunt starts, you must make a hunt roll. You must roll 6 die at the end of your turn, and each time you draw an omen card. This is called a hunt roll. If you roll less than the total number of omen cards all players have drawn this game, the hunt starts. The player who starts the hunt with the roll is called the hunt revealer. keep in mind that just because you're the hunt revealer doesn't mean that you'll be the traitor. So, let's say for example, if you draw an omen card on your turn, and it's the fifth omen card you've drawn during the, like everyone has drawn during this game, you need a result of 4 or less to the hunt in your hunt roll in order to start. After the hunt starts, if you discover a room with an omen symbol, you still draw a card and keep an omen card, but you don't make a hunt roll. Now, how do you see what hunt you say? This game has 50 different scenarios, 50 different hunts. When a player makes a hunt roll, the hunt fails, the hunt starts. Then the traitor, which there's in the 2 pages of the Traitor Storm, there's a special chart that shows which hunt has been revealed and who is the traitor. The chart is kind of complicated, but you can read through it and understand who should be what. After that, there's 2 different teams. There's a traitor who will take this book, and according to which hunt it go to another room and read special details. And then there's the survivors who need to read this book and the specific hunt and find a way to survive. Now, if there's 2 people that fulfill the special cases for them being the traitor in this specific hunt, what happens is, if one of them is a hunt revealer, then he is a traitor. Otherwise, the one who's closer to his left is a traitor. Now, when the hunt actually starts, there's the hunt setup. So the traitor takes the traitor's tome and needs to leave the room, where he reads the specific hunt that's happening right now and everything that needs to be. He also needs to know some extra rules which are revealed in this book right here, which he will take with him in order to understand, which is mostly the traitor's new powers and how monsters work, since the traitors have monsters. The rest of the players become heroes. As I said at the start, they look at the hunt with the same number in the secret of survival and lead together. The heroes should also briefly discuss their plan for survival. When everyone is ready, including the traitor returns to the room. The heroes and the traitor do anything the hunt tells them to do in the right now section. For example, sometimes you have to put tokens in the house or draw cards. Heroes and secrets. Don't tell them to the traitor what your goals are, unless you're sure he or she already knows what it is. So, some things that are revealed in this book might not be in the Traitor's Tome. That you can make sneaky strategies in order to try to defeat the traitor. Playing the hunt. Keep in mind that in case that we've already played a hunt, we can choose to just pick a different one, for fuck's sake. So, despite some special rules that are added every time a hunt happens, the traitor and the explorers and the heroes are still explorers. That means that we can still reveal rooms, draw cards, and play as we normally play, but with some added rules and new stuff in order to keep the game different. After the hand begins, explorers can die. As I said before, the skull symbols, once they go 0, that means your explorer dies. But before the hunt dies, it just goes to the lowest one and not to the skull. That means your character can't die. Sometimes, during the hunt, a hero's death turns the explorer into the traitor instead. Certain hunts require something to be done a number of times equal to the number of explorers. That number includes any explorers who have died. Sometimes the traitor is transformed or otherwise disposed of at the start of the hunt, but the serial still gets the turn after all the heroes do. So, basically what happens... Oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you. Sorry about that. The first one always starts with the players. The player to the traitor's left and goes clockwise. Next to the left away from the traitor. Each of the heroes take a hero turn. After each hero has taken a turn, the traitor takes his or her turn. So, let's say that little bugger is the traitor. So first, let's say I take my turn, then the traitor takes his turn, then another ally takes his turn, and then the traitor takes his turn again. After each traitor turn, the traitor can also move monsters. The monsters get turns directly after the traitor turn, which comes afterwards. I'm sorry, I kind of messed up the last part. What I said is incorrect. First, all the heroes take their turn, and then the traitor gets one turn, but then gets another turn just for his monster. So, what happens if I die and let's say I have a whole bunch of items and companions? That means that the place where you were last alive, you drop all of your items and all of your companions, and you should put a small symbol there so the next person who goes there can actually pick them up. If any other item, okay, that is it. And now we come to the end of this hour-long video, which probably no one will see, and time to see how about winning the game. The first side, the traitors or the heroes that complete the goals of the hunt, wins the game. A hunt goal is described after you win one at the 2 books that are right here, and doesn't necessarily require you to kill the heroes or kill the traitor. It's different for every hunt. At least one hero must survive for the heroes to win. However, some hunts goals allow the traitor to win the game even after he or she dies. For instance, the monsters that player control might be able to win without the traitor's help. When one side completes its goal, the hunt someone from the winning side reads "If you win" section on the house book out loud, and congratulations, you have completed the game. I am sorry for the really long video, and I hope you enjoy it, and I managed to explain as best as I can. For any questions, you know you can always talk to me